Hey everybody, welcome back to Rust Admin Academy. Finally, I get to do a video that the community has been asking me for I want to say about 3 years. On today's video, I'm going to be telling you my recommended top 10 plugins that are free that every admin needs to have on every single Rust server out there. All of these plugins are freely available from umod.org. I'm going to put a link next to each one of the chapters in the video description down below. So if you don't have one of these plugins on your server yet, you can just click on the link in the video description down below. It's going to take you directly to the downloads page. Now, it's important to note that this is not in any particular order. It's not like one of these plugins is more important than any of the other ones that I list, but I do think that these are the bare minimum plugins that you need to have on your server. So as the title suggests, these are admin plugins only. They do not affect gameplay in any way. Therefore, these should all be allowed on a community server. None of these are player-facing plugins. They're really only there to help you moderate. Now, that being said, I'm not the authority on this subject. I don't speak for Facepunch, and if they decide that you need to have one of these plugins removed from your server if you want to remain on the community list, then I highly suggest you do exactly what they tell you to do and remove that plugin. Basically, just do as you're told. Don't make Facepunch make the decision for you. You won't like the result. Now, that was the disclaimer out of the way. There is one caveat. There's one plugin on this list that absolutely should not be on a community server, but I'll tell you which one I'm talking about once we get there. All right, let's get into my top 10 admin plugins that are required for every single Rust server. All right, coming in at number 10 is the Vanish plugin. And obviously, Vanish allows you to go completely invisible to all of the players on the server, including admins and moderators. But one of the best features about the Vanish plugin is it's actually dual purpose. So while it makes you invisible to all players on the server, it also puts you into no clip. So if we go in chat and we type /vanish and I turn this overlay off so you can actually see it, not only does it put us in vanish mode, which makes us completely undetectable to all players on the server, including admins and moderators, but it also automatically puts us into no clip mode, which allows us to fly around and goof around, which obviously will allow you to creep up on somebody that you think might be being a little bit sus and allows you the opportunity to gather the evidence that you might need to process a ban or a kick. I highly recommend that you put this command on a hotkey so you can quickly switch back and forth from vanish and non-vanish. And to do this is really quite simple. All you need to do is decide which key that you want to use. Obviously, you want to use a key that you're not using for something else. And then you go into your F1 console and you type bind and whatever key it is that you've decided. In my case, I used numpad 5. So bind numpad 5, and then we use the chat say command, which is chat.say, and then in quotations we put whatever command it is that we're trying to execute. In this case, this is /vanish. And then once you have that done, you can quickly just press the button on your keyboard, whichever one it is that you decided, and it will automatically turn on and off that feature at the press of a button. Coming in at number 9 on my list is a plugin called NoGiveNotices, and this is a really simple plugin. There's no permissions that are required for it, but what this does is it makes it so that whenever you're spawning an item into the game, it's not sending that report to chat anymore, letting everyone on the server know what you're doing. Now, I know this might be a little bit controversial to the community, and I totally understand it. However, I do believe that this is a necessary evil. Now, we all know that nobody's going to use this ability for nefarious reasons whatsoever. I know we're only going to be using this feature when we're setting up kits or building shops. But at the end of the day, what you don't want is your players on your server to see that you're spawning items in, and there's a multitude of reasons why you wouldn't want them to see that happening. Worst case scenario, they see somebody spawning items in and they simply leave your server and they never come back. Best case scenario though is they don't leave your server and now they're nagging you, bugging you to spawn items in for them, which if you've been on my channel for any length of time, you know I highly discourage doing that. The most common one I get is, hey, can you please spawn me in an M249? I just want to shoot it for a couple of minutes. I've never actually had one before. Yeah. Number 8 on my list is AdminRadar. And because this is one of the most downloaded plugins on umod.org, I know many of you already know what this plugin is, but for those of you that don't, I'm going to give you a really quick example. Once you have AdminRadar installed in your server and you have the appropriate permissions granted to you, you just simply go to chat and do /radar. And what that does is it brings up a GUI, which is right behind my webcam, which is why I've made that invisible for now, which allows you to select the different things that you want to appear on your radar. So you can just select boxes, or you can just select or nodes, or you can just select sleepers. Whatever it is that you want to appear on your radar, you can select them on the GUI. Once you have whatever you want selected on your radar to show up, you'll start seeing them populate on your screen. As you can see, there's hemp over here, there's a sleeper over here, you can see Bradley off in the distance, and then of course there's a bunch of OR nodes. You can basically see everything. If you have nothing specified on the GUI, but you still have the radar turned on, nothing is actually going to show up on your screen except for the Bradley, the attack heli, and live players on your server. Now, there's a multitude of different reasons why you would want to use this. Definitely only for moderators or admins of your server. You don't want the general populace to have access to your admin radar. Coming in at number 7 is BetterChat. BetterChat is an absolute must for every single server out there. Now, this section is going to take me a couple of minutes to explain because I feel there are a lot of different benefits to using this plugin. But before I get into those details, if you haven't already yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on that notification bell, and if you like what I'm doing so far, hit me a thumbs up. So I use BetterChat for quite a few different reasons. Firstly, I use it to manage my Oxide groups, which in this case, they're not actually called Oxide groups, but they do function in the same way. They're called BetterChat groups. So if you're going to have different groups of players on your server with different permissions granted to them, as I've said in previous videos, you want to be doing that in the group setting as opposed to the individual players setting. That way you can set up a group, assign whatever permissions you want that group to have, and then you can quickly just add a player to that group and remove them later if you so chose. And I just find that using BetterChat to manage my groups with, it's a little bit easier for me to remember the commands. Yes, I know there are Oxide commands that do all of the same functionality, but for some reason, BetterChat just works better in my brain. Plus, it also has the added benefits. So if you want to create a new BetterChat group, you do chat, group, add, and then whatever the name of that new group is. If you want to remove a group, you do chat, group, remove, and then whatever the name is of the group that you want to remove. If you want to add a specific player to a group, you do chat, user, add, whatever that player's name or Steam 64 ID is, and then whatever the group is that you want to add them to. And of course, it works the same way if you want to remove that player. You do chat, user, remove, that player's name or Steam 64 ID, and then whatever group it is that you want to remove them from. Now, from the player's aspect, BetterChat can actually be beneficial to them. We all know that players love having tags next to their name, and BetterChat allows you to assign and define whatever tag it is you want next to a specific group's name. So as you can see in my chat right now, I'm a VIP on my own server. That's why you see gold next to my name. You can define that to be whatever it is that you want. Plus, I also use player challenges on my personal server, and I've built the most structures on my server. Therefore, I also have the architect tag next to my name. BetterChat also negates the necessity to use a plugin called NoGreen. So for those of you that don't know, whenever you're the owner or the moderator of a server and you type in chat, your name will appear green. Therefore, a plugin was designed in order to make that green text on your name go away, and it makes you just look like a regular player, even though you have different auth levels assigned to you. But because we can control the color, the text, the size of it has to do with the player's name or tags next to their name, we don't need to use that plugin called NoGreen anymore. Anyways, I'm getting too specific on that. Just know that if you have NoGreen installed on your server and you also want to add BetterChat, make sure you remove NoGreen. Otherwise, it's going to completely mess up with your chat. You're going to end up with double chats. Coming in at number 6 on my list is CopyPaste. Now, this is going to be the plugin on my list that I don't think is going to be allowed to be used on a community server. I can't think of any reason why on a community server you would ever need to copy a base to paste it in at a different location. So you remember my disclaimer at the beginning of the video. This is the plugin that I was talking about that I don't think FacePunch would allow on a community server. Now, that being said, CopyPaste is still a very important plugin to have, even if you're not actually using the plugin yourself. There are plugins out there such as Rateable Bases, Random Bases, if it ever gets released to the public. They all utilize CopyPaste. Now, you might be wondering why Rustkits is on that list of plugins that can utilize CopyPaste. With this plugin, you can actually create a kit using Rustkits that allows a player to select the kit, which will then build them a base. And it's actually the CopyPaste plugin that is placing that base for them. Now, I've done videos on this in the past. I've shown you all how to do this. If you're interested in learning how to do that, I'll put a link in the video description down below next to this chapter. So this is kind of funny. This is Srtbull here. I'm doing the editing process, and I realized that as I'm doing this section that I completely forgot to tell you what CopyPaste actually does. CopyPaste allows you to be looking at a base, and you can run a command in chat, which is /copy, and then a file name that goes along with it. So you would do something like copy base name. And what it does is it actually saves that file or saves that base into your CopyPaste folder inside your data folder. You can then reference that same file later and paste that base into a different location. That's the basic functionality of CopyPaste. I got too excited about telling you about the other plugins that use it, plus the ability to build a kit that allows a player to claim a base. Anyways, back to the video. And coming in number 5 on my list is PlayerAdministration. PlayerAdministration is a free all-in-one player management system. And this is what it looks like when you first open it up. And if you go to online players and select a specific player, this is all of the information that you're going to get about that player. On the left hand side there are all the physical parameters of that player, where they are, their health, Steam 64 ID, stuff like that. On the middle and right hand side of the page is all of the different things that you can perform on that player. Now you're going to see a bunch of this stuff is actually grayed out for me. That's because I have the protected permissions applied to myself so that none of my moderators can actually perform these actions on my player character. But from here we can ban, kick, mute, unmute, freeze, unfreeze. We can have a look at their backpack inventory. We can have a look at their regular inventory. We can check and deal with their permissions directly from this GUI. Plus we can do these fun things at the very bottom here. We can hurt them by 25%. We can heal them by 75%. We can do all of these different things. We can heal them 100% or we can completely kill them dead. You can also perform these same functionalities to anybody that is offline from your server right now. And you can also have a look at any players that you might have banned from your server. PlayerAdministration is probably one of my top 3 used plugins on a regular basis. Once I was introduced to it, I added it to my regular repertoire and I don't think I could ever go back. Coming in at number 4 on my list is a plugin called Welcomer. What Welcomer does is it just quickly sends a message to the player as soon as they join your server, and it can be literally whatever it is that you want it to be. You can say, hey, welcome to blah 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 server, check out our Discord at such and such an address. It just pops up in chat as soon as they connect to the server, and then it never does anything ever again, of course, until the next player joins. It's just a simple, lightweight messaging system so that you can get a message across to the player as soon as they join your server. It's very lightweight, but it definitely gets the point across. Coming in at number 3 is TimedExecute. I've been using TimedExecute for literally as long as I've been an admin of a server. That's going back damn near 7 years now. TimedExecute allows you to automate certain functions of your server on a specific timer, and it has built in 4 different timer modes. First one is using the in-game timer. So the plugin knows what time of day it is inside the actual server itself, and it can trigger different events based on what time it is in the game. It also has a real-time timer, which is based on the actual time of day, the real life time of day, wherever the server is hosted. So in my example, my server is hosted in Dallas, Texas, even though I'm not in Dallas, Texas. Therefore, the commands that I have on my real-time timer execute on Dallas time, not on my time. The reason I'm putting so much emphasis on this, letting you know how this works, is because I've come across a lot of people that set up a timer to, let's say, restart their server at 4 a.m. and they think that it's 4 a.m. where they are, when it's actually 4 a.m. where the server is, and those time zone differences can change what time that's going to be. That whole thing made sense in my head, but once I actually said it out loud, it didn't make sense anymore. I think you guys understand what I'm saying. If you don't, of course, leave a comment in the comment section down below, and I'll try to clarify that for you. So the third timer is what's called a timer once. So it'll wait the designated time, which in this case is 60 seconds, and then it'll perform that command, and then it won't ever try to perform that command again. And you can have multiple commands here, all waiting different lengths of time before they actually perform that command. And then of course you can also reset that timer by setting this command in there as well. You want to put the reset timer after all of the different timers that you've already set. So as you can see here, there's one command set at 60 seconds, 120 seconds, 180 seconds, and then the reset timer happens at 181 seconds. So it waits until all of the other actions have been performed, and then it'll reset that timer and start at the top again. And the fourth timer is the timer repeat. This is just as simple as it sounds. It performs the command and then it waits whatever the designated time is. In this case, it's 300 seconds or 5 minutes, and then it'll perform that same command again. And of course, you can have multiple commands here. You can have as many as you want on this list. So there's a ton of different reasons why you would use TimedExecute. Probably the most common reason people use it is to automatically restart their server at a specified time during the day. But you can also set it up to like change the weather or change the lighting, change the time of day, whatever it is that you want to do, but you want it to be automated. TimedExecute is the way to do that. Back in the day, we used to have a plugin that would freeze up automatically, almost like clockwork, and we'd have to reload that plugin in order to get that functionality back. We used TimedExecute to automatically reload that plugin every 3 hours, I think it was, and then we never had to worry about it again. Luckily, that is no longer a problem. That plugin has been fixed, so we don't use TimedExecute for that anymore, but I do still use TimedExecute on every single server that I set up. Now, I've forgotten where my numbering is, but I think this is the second to last plugin that I'm going to tell you about today, and this one is called LoadingMessages. Now, as we all know, as you're loading into a server, depending on how much of a potato your computer is, it can take anywhere from 30 seconds. I've seen some computers take up to 10 minutes to load into a server, and for those of you, I'm sorry. But what LoadingMessages does is it allows us to display information to the player as they're loading into our server. And all of these messages are totally configurable. You can change them to whatever it is that you want them to be simply by editing the configuration file for LoadingMessages. Let's say you have players that are coming in on a potato and that takes them 10 minutes. Why not show them something on screen that tells them where to go to get to your Discord or where to go to get to your website so that they can purchase a VIP package? If you have a very well populated server and you actually have players in your queue quite often, same thing, while they're sitting there looking at this screen right here, you can send them different messages. As well as it saying you're in the queue waiting to get into the server, you should also go check out blah 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 Discord. It's just another way to get information across to our players as they're joining our server, and I actually believe that this might be a little bit more efficient than using a plugin like Welcomer, because you know they're sitting there at their mouse and keyboard just waiting for the server to boot so that they can actually start killing people. All right, this is number 1 on my list. This is Rustcord. Rustcord is probably one of my favorite plugins. What it does is it allows you to integrate your Discord with your Rust server, and they communicate back and forth together, which then turns your Discord into a fully automated monitoring system for your Rust server. You can fully configure Rustcord to report as much or as little information as you want directly into your Discord. I've done a complete video tutorial on how to set this up. I use it on my own personal servers. I highly recommend you go check out this plugin. You can have it do things like reporting players joining your server or leaving your server. It can report deaths of all type, including death notes, directly to your Discord. You can actually set it up so that you can have two-way chatting from your Discord directly into your server and back and forth. Now, it's also worth noting that that is very much permissions based. Don't make the mistake that I did once years and years ago and allowed it so that anybody could go in and chat into my Rust server. That was a nightmare. And you can also set it up so that any command that you would normally send in your server's console, you can send directly through Discord and it'll execute it for you. Setting the time, changing the weather, restarting the server, whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it directly from your Discord. It's a very powerful plugin. I highly recommend you go check it out. I think every single server owner needs to be using Rustcord. It's very simple to set it up. Go watch my video. It teaches you everything you need to know. You'll be up and running in no time. You'll be amazed at what this plugin can do for you. All right, that was my top 10 list of recommended plugins that I think every Rust server needs to have on their server. If you haven't already done so, make sure you smash that like button for me. It's the only way that you guys can let me know that you are liking this type of content, which will then of course turn into me continuing to make this type of content. I think I should also be doing a video on my top 10 favorite player side plugins as well, which of course is then going to lead me into the top 10 or top 20 or top 1000 premium plugins that I think every player should have as well. That's going to get out of control very quickly. I can see it already. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. I put out a brand new video every Friday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, or I do a live stream instead, apparently. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next week.